Hey y'all, and welcome to another episode of Barbershop Love Stories. My name is Lena West, and I'm the founder and creator of Barbershop Love Stories. Today, my very, very special guest is Drew.
Hey everybody, how you doing?
Hey Drew. Drew, we met about a week ago, and your story was so interesting. I was like, I gotta have you on the show to just share your take on everything. So why don't you go ahead and start? Tell me your story.
So it was interesting. Yeah, the conversation that we had, just talking about marriage and then life after marriage and everything. So I guess the best place to start is the beginning when it comes to me. So I got married young. I was 21.
Okay.
20 years old. Got engaged on Christmas Eve, but actually Christmas Day. Got married at 21, and then started life. And lived in Ohio 5 years after I got married, moved down here to Georgia to start my career with my wife and both my kids in tow. And then life continued to life. And then eventually things happened in our relationship. Things happened just with our growth, both collectively and individually. And so it led to me stepping out in 2017, year 10 of our marriage. I stepped out, and really I wouldn't say that was the end of it, but it was the beginning of the end. At that point, we tried to, fix it, reconcile, did therapy and everything, but we just couldn't find that common ground back. And so it ended up leading to us getting divorced, and here we are now. Just about a year officially divorced. We were separated for about 18 months before we moved out of the house, sold our house and everything, and then took about another year or so before the divorce was final.
Okay, so I'm gonna back all the way up and ask you, was there pressure to get married, or did you just happen to find somebody that you loved at a young age and then that's just the next step?
So for me, it wasn't no pressure. Ironically, a lot of people thought, and a lot of people said, oh, y'all getting married because she was pregnant. But that had no idea, that wasn't even the factor. Like when we found out that she was pregnant, we weren't even together. And we started talking, communicating, got back on good terms. And then actually I had a God moment. I've told this story so many times, but we were sitting at her aunt and uncle's house. She's pregnant. My grandmother had just passed. We find out that my grandmother's passed in October. Is around the same time we find out she's pregnant. So I'm like, okay, God, this is real. And then, because they say, it's one going out, one coming in. Yeah. And so we're sitting at her aunt's table, and we're just talking about life and everything. And her aunt looks at us and said, what y'all gonna do? And I don't mean shacking up. And time stood still for me at that moment. Saw a light pop up behind her, big gold light, and I heard God speak. He's like, you can ask. And so I asked. She said yes. And that pretty much started our path towards marriage. So there was no pressure. We waited until the baby was born. My daughter was born in April. We got married in August that next year. And we just started life.
So when did you realize you were unhappy or dissatisfied?
I can't pinpoint an exact time. But what I can pinpoint is when I saw changes in behavior. Not just in her, but also in me. I was at a place where I would work overtime, didn't want to go home, sit in the car. And then I started noticing that there were things that she wasn't doing also. My ex was an avid couponer, huge couponer. And one thing that we always did was we let kids come to the house from the church, and they would what we call go shopping and get their stuff and get ready to go to college and everything. Yeah. So they would come over and they would get toiletries and toilet paper and the hygiene products and whatever they needed for their dorm rooms to make it feel like home, so that they didn't have to go to the laundromat and everything. I mean, they're getting 3 and 4 tubs of detergent and everything. And when I started, and this is hindsight, I didn't realize it at the time, but I started realizing, like, man, she stopped doing those things that she was doing to benefit the house. And that caused me to feel some resentment towards her, number one. But the biggest thing for me is I didn't feel like I was getting the validation. Validation, what I learned through my therapy was huge for me. That was always my go-to, was validation. And so when I felt invalidated, that's what ultimately led to me stepping out of my marriage, because I didn't feel valid. I didn't feel needed or wanted. I honestly felt like a paycheck.
I want to pause right there. A lot of women feel like I shouldn't have to treat him like a 5-year-old and say, "Good boy, good job. You did so good today. I'm so proud of you." Like, are you, is there a balance with that? Like, or is that just something that needs to be a thing? Like,
so the thing about men, we like to feel wanted just as much as a woman does. We also like to feel needed. And so when we get to a space where we don't feel needed or wanted, we start latching onto those areas and spaces where we do feel needed and wanted. For some people, it may be another woman. For some people, it may be family. For some people, it may be work. It may be a fraternity. It could be anything. But once a man has that feeling of, man, you know what? I'm needed. Like you hear about mama's boys. It's because their mama lets them know, hey, I need you. And so they latch on to that. And so a lot of women, they'll say, oh, well, you know, I don't need to, you know, stroke his ego and everything like that. Well, men are very egotistical. We are very, unfortunately, we are narcissistic creatures. We need that.
do you have to have both at the same time, or can you have one at one point in time and then another season have the other?
Yeah, it kind of depends. So like for me,
it just has to be either or.
Yeah, for like for instance, for me, my love language is words of affirmation. Like, tell me I'm doing great. Tell me how amazing I am. Because in return, I'm going to reciprocate that. And I'm going to do my best to speak in your love language as well. So if your love language is acts of service and you're telling me, hey, you know what, I really appreciate what you do. I really appreciate how you love me. You know, I really appreciate the work that you put in and everything like that. You know, I'm going to turn around and I'm going to reciprocate that. The flip to it is that it takes the man to understand that they need that. Like I said, I got married 21 years old. I had no business being anybody's husband at 21. No business being anybody's husband at 21. But as I grew up, you know, and as we grew up together, that's where it kind of, we kind of lost our spaces because we were still growing into who we were going to be as adults. We were changing, and you know, one of the things that we had spoken about last week was, you know, just that idea of change. Like, there's two different types of change that happens. The first one is just that, you know, people change their looks, you know, people may change certain types of behavior and everything like that. And it's just that outward appearance, but who they are stays the same. But then you have that second change, which is that core change, when a person's the core of who they are and you don't recognize them anymore. And, you know, for me, that's what I felt when it came to my ex. You know, I felt like the core of who she was had shifted. She wasn't the person who I saw myself spending the rest of my life with anymore.
So who was wrong? Was God wrong?
Nah. Nobody was wrong. God is the only constant. The problem is that when you don't put God first and you allow all the other stuff to come in, or you don't do the work.
Okay. So you don't doubt that you felt like you heard from God at that point?
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah. Okay.
So for me, like it's funny because my mom had asked me this before, was like, you know, well, do you think that there will be a chance? And I'm like, nah. And she said, well, why not? I said, because although I heard God's voice and God said he can ask, he didn't tell me when to marry her. And so I only got part of the instruction. Wow. So yeah, I was well within my right to ask, but God hadn't released me to being her husband completely. because there were still things that I had to go through. And because we took that as, okay, I'm asking, and we saw certain red flags and we didn't follow through. You know, we did that thing that, you know, Adam and Eve did. It was like, well, God said, but did he say we can't eat the fruit or we can't look at the fruit?
Yeah.
And so God said, this is your wife. I can look at her as my wife. But I wasn't prepared as a man to be able to take her I wasn't prepared to love her like Christ loved the church.
Wow. That's very interesting. So it's almost as if you're saying that you got part of the instruction, you chose not to wait to hear the rest of it, and then here we are.
God don't tell us everything, and he don't tell us what the end gonna look like. That's the scary part.
Right there. Wow. So basically the feelings that you were seeking to fulfill through stepping out boiled down to being validated and feeling wanted, needed.
Like I felt needed in the sense of, okay, I'm a provider.
Okay.
I'm gonna take care of the family. Bills gonna be paid. We ain't gonna be out in the street. Food gonna be on the table. All that's gonna be done. But when it comes to, hey, you know, let me do something for you. That sense of validation. Where it's like, okay, I would love to take you out somewhere. I would love to, hey, you know what? Your favorite basketball team is the Pistons. I want to take you to a Pistons game. Your favorite football team is the Broncos. I want to take you to a Bronco game. You love Ohio State. I want to take you to an Ohio State game. Hey, you know what? I know you love football, period. So you know what? I'm going to just take you to any football game. Or, you know, I know you love gaming. So you know what? Let me take you to an arcade, and just like those little things that lets a man know that you're paying attention to him and that you're in that say, even if you don't like it. And that goes the same. Goes the same for men too. So like a lot of men, you know, if we don't like opera or theater or something like that, we'll still take our lady to go because that's what they want. That's something that they need. It validates them. It validates the relationship.
So when giving my clients space to share, they're saying the exact same thing. I had one gentleman, he was like, I like purses too, like bags and stuff, like not purses, but bags for Father's Day. I like gift cards. And he started listing all this stuff, and I was like, wow, you know, like it's real mid to just give somebody socks or
a tie
or something like that. That says like, I'm not really focusing on your value in this household or this relationship. I just want to throw you something, a little something.
Because a lot of men now, and maybe not even now, but just a lot of men in general, like their value is based on, can you pay my bills? Their value is based on, you know, do you have a 6-figure career? Do you have this car? Do you have this? Do you have a house? Do you have this? I hate to say it, but in this era, this generation, like more women are looking for sponsors than spouses.
And I'll ask the question, is that an Atlanta thing or is that across the board thing? Do you think it's more of like an Atlanta?
No, I think it's more of across the board because you even see, you see it on social media in different areas and stuff. You see the videos, whether they be fake or not. I mean, in every joke, there's a sense of reality. So, you know, if you see a video from, you know, LA, and it's the same type of video that you see in Atlanta where the girl is walking by and, the guy tries to holler at her and she's like, I don't talk to bums. You ain't even had a chance to meet me. But then I go get in my car and you like, oh wait, this your car? Whether it's fake or not, that idea came from somewhere. So I think it's across the board, and it's not women's fault nor is men's fault. It's just that's how society has evolved now.
That's just so tragic. I have a friend of mine, and he's a tall, good-looking guy, and we've been friends for like 4 years, something like that, 4 or 5 years. And I noticed it's a common thing. Like he'll get with people who want to be with the image of who they think that he is, but not necessarily who he is. So we're completely platonic. I'm like really, really good friends with him, and I know him almost inside out. So I know what kind of food he eats. I know what his favorite color is. Like I know these things because we're friends. Whereas the people that he dates, I notice that they're interested in how he looks with them rather than knowing him. And I think it's just so tragic because I would think that everybody wants to be known, but I'm not seeing like a lot of that go on, and it's just tragic to me.
Yeah, I mean that's social media has completely changed the dating game.
Yeah.
It used to be you can go out somewhere, you can, you meet somebody. I mean, granted, I got married young, but I knew my ex from elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
We went to elementary school, junior high together.
Wow.
Before she moved out of state,
Mm-hmm.
and then she ended up coming back to Ohio, and we started dating then.
Mm-hmm.
But up until that point, we had never dated. I mean, we knew each other, we knew of each other, but we had never dated or anything. I never thought to date her until we reconnected as young adults. And it just goes to show you that, I mean, somebody can pop up from your past, or it can be somebody new. And if you have that as like they say, if the vibe is there, the vibe is there.
Mm-hmm.
If you connect with somebody, you connect with somebody.
Wow. Was it, did initially the affair start with physical, or did it start with the emotional?
So my affair it wasn't even an affair. It was a one-off.
Oh.
I had a moment where I was just like, I didn't care anymore. And when it happened, it was just kind of like, all right, it happened. Felt bad, but at the same time, it was like, yeah, you ain't right. So I hid it.
Mm-hmm.
So I never told her. She found out, so to speak. She looked at my phone, saw some messages, and boom, it was on from there. But for me, it was just that person who knows nothing about me, knows nothing about what I do, didn't know who my ex was or anything. Told her up front, I'm married, but didn't care. And from there started to stroke the ego. From there started to give the validation. Oh, you know what? I love the what you're wearing. I love that you, the job that you do. I love that you have a career and everything like that, and it just kind of, it built. And so even in that short amount of time, it stroked my ego enough to where I risked it all and lost it all.
Wow. So that night you come home and you pretend like nothing happened, or do you feel like that moment on you just started to act weird?
No, that moment I got home, I took a shower. I mean, we were pretty much. I mean, it was already cold, but it wasn't. I didn't change my routines or anything like that because it wasn't something. It wasn't a lifestyle for me. Okay. It wasn't something that I was like, oh well, you know what? Next week I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna go to this bar, I'm gonna go to that bar, I'm gonna go to the club, or you know what? I'm gonna reach out to this person and see what's going on or anything like that. It wasn't a lifestyle for me. But for the issue for me was that I always had conversations. I would have conversations with different women, but I would never act on going to see somebody or hanging out with somebody. So the infidelity was the physical infidelity was ultimately the last straw. But even before that, I was having those conversations. So I had already, kind of unlocked the door.
Were they flirty conversations, or were they just like, oh, okay.
Oh yeah. Like, I mean, very flirtatious, a lot of talking, a lot of gas, so to speak, but no action. And in my mind, for me, it was like, well, I ain't sleeping with nobody. I ain't touching nobody. I'm not going to see nobody, and going to nobody's house, ain't nobody. So, it's just talking. That's it. It's just talking. I'm being a man. I'm just talking. But, again, hindsight is 20/20. And so once you start to mature and you start to think of things differently, you go, dang, if it was me on the other side, how would I feel about that?
Right.
About a conversation that, just it doesn't even look right. And so once you get to that space, you kind of go, okay, I can see where I was wrong. And that's where the accountability comes in. You know, it's real easy to just say, oh, I did this, I did that. It's a whole other thing to take accountability for it and say, yeah, I was wrong for doing what I did. Because a lot of people, they'll say, oh, well, you know what? Yeah, I stepped out. Yeah, I did this. Yeah, I did that. But you know what? Yeah, I just did it. It just happened, you know?
So she found out how soon after that one night?
2 months.
2 months.
About 2 months later.
And then was it immediate where you started to make amends?
Oh yeah, it was immediate.
Okay.
I mean, it was absolutely immediate. Started going because I was against therapy. I did not want to go to nobody's counseling, nobody's therapy. I didn't want to sit on nobody's couch and let them tell me how I was a dog and how I was this and how I was that. And, you know, but I went to therapy and everything, and we started to kind of make some progress. But ultimately, you know, we did the therapy for a little while, and then started to get back on the right foot, had some other things happen, and then COVID hit.
Ooh.
And I think COVID was the moment where I realized, like, yeah, this woman don't even like me. Yeah, it might be time to think about. And then COVID ends, and I never forget the day that she never really asked for a divorce. She just said she was done. And I kind of prompted that question because I was actually getting ready to go on a guy's trip with my best friends, and we were getting ready to go to Cancun. And like the week before, I went to her and I was like, hey, you know what? We still not in a good space. Like, we still, you know, we still missing, we misconnecting. Like, I don't know what's going on. Like, can we figure this out? You know, before I go on this trip, can we try to put something in place for when I come back, we can, you know, kind of get back on track. And I said, can we go back to therapy? She said, I don't want to go to therapy. Okay. I said, well, marriage is about compromise, right? So let's compromise. How about we go to therapy individually, and then after some time, we can come and go to therapy together. I don't want to go to therapy. Okay. I said, so what do you want? What are you saying? Are you done? Yeah, I'm done. And that was the first moment, that was the first time that she had ever said that, you know, and I felt it. I walked out. I actually left the house. I probably left for about 10 minutes, and I just turned around and came back because I was like, nah, I can't leave out the house like that. Came back. I apologized for leaving, and then had a bit of a conversation about it, but, you know, no resolution, of course, that night. And then I go on a trip. You know, I'm talking to my best friends about it. Like, hey, what am I supposed to do? What's going on? How, you know, trying not to think about, you know, what's going on at home, because I'm on a guy's trip in Cancun trying to just have a good time and relax. Excuse me. And then, so I had a notebook and I was just writing down all the questions. I was like, okay, well, you know what? The first question I had was, are we separating to save our marriage? Or are we separating to sever our marriage? And then, I mean, I never put any effort or thought into sever. I put every other question I had behind that was save our marriage. And then when I got back, I home for about a week, and I went to her and I said, hey, can we talk? I said, you know, I've been back. You know, you said you was done. I want to give you some time. So, like, what are we separating for? Are we separating to save our marriage, or are we separating to sever our marriage? And she said sever. And that was pretty much it. I had nothing else to follow up with that because that wasn't where my mind was at the time. And after that, I tried for a few more months, and it got to a point to where I realized it didn't matter what I did, what I said. She was gone already. She was already gone. She had already settled on her decision. And the reality is that she had settled on that decision well before we ever got to that conversation. You know, they say women leave before they leave. And that's true. They leave well before they leave. And, you know, then it got to the shuffleboard. And okay, we got to start moving things around. So that's what we did, and moved out the house. We stayed in the same house for about a year and a half. Then we sold the house, split the proceeds. I bought a new house, settled into my new house, and about a year and a half or so after we completely separated, different houses, divorce was final.
With going through that, what have you learned about, what, how do you feel about commitment and loyalty?
It's important. I have a new sense of it. Definitely have a new sense of it.
Are the definitions different?
I don't think they're necessarily different, but they're how to go about it is different for me. It's less about honesty and more about transparency. I've watched a bunch of different pods and see reels and stuff. And one thing that I heard a podcaster say was the difference between transparency and honesty is honesty is oh well, you know what? Where did you go? Oh, I went here. I'm telling you where I went after you asked me. But transparency is I come to you before I even leave the house and I say, hey, I'm going out with so and so, such and such. This is where we're going. This is how long I plan on being there. Give me a shout if anything, changes. It's still honesty, but I'm opening that door for you. I'm opening that window for you. You don't have to open it for me. And so that's where I'm trying to get to now. Is get into that space where I don't have a problem with, hey, I'm going over so-and-so's house. Oh, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. This is where I'm going to be. Hey, here's my location. This is it. This is who's going to be there. And with these people being there, are you comfortable with that? Because it may be another woman there. It may be a bunch of single guys there. It may be a bunch of people that, get real rowdy. When they hang out. I may be going to a club. I may be going to a bar. I may be going to a game. Whatever it is, are you comfortable enough with me being in that space? And do you trust me enough with me being in that space?
Okay. What do you think about people having passcodes for your phone and all that good stuff? And is that part of that transparency?
So it's a double-edged sword. If you're looking for something, you are bound to find something. That's just reality. If you're looking for something, you are bound to find it. Even if it's something that your mind will make it be what you want it to be because you're looking for it.
Yeah.
But if you just have that open access and both partners have that same, transparency, I don't see if there's an issue. The issue comes in when you do have something going on. But at the same time, there are things that people have in their own private lives that are separate. You still have to be able to maintain your own identity. And so, there be group chats, that you don't want people to me and the fellas have this group chat and we talk about some things in this group chat.
Yeah.
The ladies have their group chat. They talk about certain things. Hey, you have a nickname in that group chat,
Right.
There may be work-related stuff, depending on your field. You may have a work-related thing going on your phone that you can't, share that information with. And so you got to be real careful about that. But that also comes in with the trust. Do I trust you enough to be able to say, I'm not worried about what's in his phone. I'm not worried about what's in her phone because I trust you. I don't have to trust that girl. I don't have to trust that guy, but I trust you.
Right.
So, I wouldn't say I'm for it or against it. I understand both arguments. For me, no, I'm not giving you the passcode to the phone because it's mine.
Is this after marriage? You wouldn't?
Yeah.
Really? Wow. If the person that you married, that was a deal breaker for them, would you budge on that?
It would be a conversation to be had.
Okay.
Because I don't have to give you my passcode to let you see what's in my phone.
Okay, so
you see what I'm saying? So if you say, hey, you know what? Let me see your last 10 messages. Here. I ain't got nothing to hide. But at the same time, I got my passcode on my phone for a reason. Most people put passcodes on their phone for a reason. For me, because of my field, I have photos and audio and pictures and photos and pictures, the same thing, duh. You know, I got other things in my phone, and there's other things that I have access to, you know, that could jeopardize, you know, confidentiality in my job. And so no, I can't give you my passcode. Not to mention, the majority of people use the same passcode for a lot of different things. So if I give you my passcode for one thing, you might be trying to figure out my passcode for some other things. And there may be something I don't want you to know about. There may be some things that I'm not ready to share with you.
That's fair. That's fair. This is the first time I've ever thought, you might have a point there. I've always felt like, you know, I wouldn't want to be with somebody who couldn't give me like the passcode to their phone or anything like that. But it never occurred to me that maybe there's a job situation that might not, you know, because if you were a counselor and everything and you had some things about other people on there, I don't think that would be a good thing that should just only be your information. But yeah, I do like the idea of here's my phone, you know, like, that's
yeah, there's always my realtor always said, shout out baby. My realtor always told when we bought my new house, she said, well, even when I bought my first house, first thing she said, Drew, don't worry about anything. She said, everything's negotiable. And I was like, And when I started thinking about what she was saying, I was like, damn, that's kind of, that's a life lesson. Like, literally, everything is negotiable. Like, if me and you are in a relationship, that's a constant negotiation. Whether or not we want to, hey, what do you want to eat tonight? I don't know. Okay, let's talk about it. There's negotiation happening right there. Where do you want to go on vacation? I want to go somewhere warm. I want to go out the country. Okay, let's negotiate. Hey, you know, what kind of house do we want to buy? What's the budget? I don't want to spend more than $400. I don't want to spend more than $350. Okay, let's negotiate. So life is completely a negotiation. And so I don't think that anything, especially in a relationship, nothing can be concrete. You know, nothing can be like, okay, if it's not this, then it's done. But there should always be room to have a conversation for it. If there's no room to have a conversation, if there's no room to have that conversation, then, you know, what are you in a relationship for? There's no give, no take. You know, what's the purpose? Then you just in a dictatorship.
That right there. I met somebody at the first of the year that like just completely threw me off because I'd never met anybody like him. And so one of the things that has challenged me is like, I'm not that great of a communicator, come to find out. And I see the world as black and white, and it's not. It's kind of gray. It's got some colors and stuff. You gotta give a little. You gotta take a little. You know, and you really have to. You gotta be flexible when you're dealing with another person.
Yeah.
Another person who has completely different background that you have, and yeah, it was just like really eye-opening for myself to realize that, like, wow, you know, this is an area where you definitely need to like step it up, like, cause I'm more on the like, well, we just won't talk about it. We just won't talk about it. But you know, you're not getting anywhere with that. So yeah, everything.
I'm the same way. I avoid conflict. Like my entire life, I've struggled with confidence, conflict. Those have been like just. Those are two things that I've always had issue with, and that fed into my validation. You know, because if I don't feel validated, I don't feel confident. When I don't feel confident, then it feeds into, oh man, now some conflict is about to come, and I don't want to deal with it already because now you've invalidated me. So because you've invalidated me, now it leads to me being in conflict with you because I don't like the way you just made me feel.
Right.
But on top of that, I'm not confident enough to come to you and say, yeah, I didn't like that. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? So it feeds into that triangle. And so that's something that I definitely have tried to do and fix, you know, within myself. It's difficult because any work that you do on yourself is difficult. I mean, Michael Jackson said himself, you gotta look at the man in the mirror.
For sure.
And a lot of times when you can't, it's really hard to face the man in the mirror. It's really hard to face the woman in the mirror, especially when somebody else is putting the mirror in front of you and telling you, hey, look at yourself. And you like, I don't want to look at myself. I'd rather not deal with this. But you need to.
Yeah.
And then when you get to that space to where you have to do the work, because that's the most important thing. That's one thing that I lacked in marriage was the work. I had no work ethic when it came to my marriage.
I got married at 18. How was I supposed to know we even had to work? I thought we could just float by on love and love alone. And that's not true.
I learned, I wouldn't say early on, but I learned through the trials of marriage that love is not enough. And on top of that, I told myself I'll never get married for love again.
Really?
Mm-mm.
I mean,
love is a choice.
Okay.
So if I'm sharing my time and space with you, there's already a sense of love that I have for you.
Okay.
Whether it be, I'm in love with you or I have love for you. So for instance, my best friends, love my best friends. Would I marry them? Absolutely not. But there's that love that I have. My parents love my parents. But I take them in doses. My sisters, love my sisters and my brother. But sometimes they get on my nerves. So but within all of that, it's a choice. I choose every single day. There's only one relationship where there is not a choice when it comes to love. It's just inherited, and that's a parent to child. And even then, it's tested to where I don't want nothing to do with you. But there's always still that innate love that's there. And so I always said, at one point I wasn't getting married again. I was like, nah. Honestly, before January this year, I was not interested in even having a title with nobody talk. I was just about to be like, hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? And I was just gonna have a roster and keep it moving, But for me, love is, like I said, love is a choice. And because it's a choice, I was like, I'm not gonna choose to be married because of love, because it takes a whole lot more. I need to be with somebody that is a partner. I'm not looking for, I said I wasn't going to start looking for somebody that could fill a gap. Yeah. I wasn't looking for somebody that was going to make me better. I'm damn good all by myself. I'm great all by myself. I don't need somebody to come in and make me better, and I don't need to make somebody else better. But what I can do is I can come in and I can compliment you. You can come in and you can compliment me. And hey, we can compliment the world together.
Yeah, I'm not trying to heal anybody.
And you will be surprised how many people, maybe not surprised, but there's a lot of people in the world there are people out there that's looking for somebody to fix. They're looking for somebody to fix. Oh, you know what? I don't like the way you cut your hair. You know what? I don't like the clothes you wear. You know what? I don't like the music you listen to. I don't like the area you live in. I don't like the food you eat. And so they come in and they think, I can change this person to everything that I really want them to be. They'll be perfect for me. Not realizing that who they are in and of themselves is perfect for you. Because so many people are looking for, I want somebody that's, I want a partner. And their idea of partner is, this person is just like me, when in reality, opposites attract.
Yeah.
So, in my life now, I'm blessed because I have found, an opportunity to grow with somebody new. And I'm in a new relationship. Well, I wouldn't say new, but I'm in a relationship now. And I have somebody who is challenging me in different areas, but also respects who I am and what I've come through.
Yeah. I think that's a balance, though. I don't want to be with somebody who's like, change me. But at the same time, even the fellow that I met earlier this year, he has changed me by just being him. So just the fact that I don't communicate very, very well, when I circled back and was able to communicate, there wasn't any harshness going on. It was just, a very graceful kindness. And so that in itself was way more convicting than somebody fussing at me like, well, why didn't you say such and such, or why didn't you this or that? Just his steadiness and his calmness like did something to me. It changed me. Without him setting up a goal to change Lena, Lena definitely changed. Like, I've never in my life experienced anything like that at all. But yeah, so that's my little story. I'm sticking to it. What kind of man do you want to be moving forward?
Oh wow. Like honestly, I just want to be me. I want to be what God has called me to be. I want to be what I want to be the example for my son. You know, I want my son to be able to look at me and say, man, I like the way my dad did this, the way my dad does this. You know, one thing about my dad, I was blessed to have both my parents in the household. But I also was blessed to watch my dad also take care of a son from a previous relationship before he met my mother. And so I've always seen my dad take care of his family. Even when it was difficult, even when there were difficult times. And, you know, and I hope he never sees it. My dad's a mean man. but he has a certain love that is harsh. But looking back on it, I'm like, okay, I kind of understand why I got here. There are things that I would take from my dad and I implement into how I raise my children. But then there's some other things that I'm like, nah, I'll leave that alone. And I want that same thing for my son. I want my son to be able to look at me and not only be proud of the man that I am, but also to look at me and say, you know what, I want to be like my father. And be able to pick and choose the areas that he feels I'm strongest in and say, I'm going to implement these into me as a man, but then I'm going to build up the other areas that, you know, and you know what, my dad wasn't that strong in this area, so I'm going to build on that.
Right.
I want to be a man that not only has his strengths, but also embraces his weaknesses. What
does that mean? What do you feel like that?
I'm not perfect, you know? By a long shot. I have issues. Everybody has issues. I not just want to, but as a man raising a young man, I also have to be conscious of, okay, what are my weaknesses? Where do I fail at? Failure is my biggest fear. And so I have to be able to face it and say, all right, look, you weren't a good husband in the beginning. You weren't a great husband. You did what was necessary to take care of your family. You were a provider. You were a great father, but were you a great husband? Debate. You did some great things, but overall, even if because there was a little plaque that was hanging up in my grandmother's kitchen that I always read going into the kitchen because it would sit right above her chest freezer. And it said, when I do something good, nobody remembers. When I do something bad, nobody forgets. And I always think about like as I got older, I always would think about that idea of, man, you know what? When I was taking care of my family, when I was the only source of income in the household, when I was getting off work late and working overtime and doing all these things, like nobody remembers that stuff. But the moment that I made a mistake, the moment that I fail, the moment that I fall and I mess up and I step out on my wife and, you know, I made some decisions that weren't best for my marriage. Those are the things that I'm remembered for. I remember going home to Ohio and somebody said to me, they were told, watch out for him, he a cheater. And I was like, well, dang, how do y'all know about this way up here? Not only that, me stepping out, okay, bet. But you know what? It is what it is. People get labeled all the time, but if you're going to live by your label, then you're going to be that label. And so I've always said I want to just be, I want to be me, you know? I try to live by my mantra, low key and out the way. You know?
Did you feel like your son saw you as a villain once everything came out?
I don't think my son did. I mean, me and my son, I mean, heck, me and him, we do a lot. We do everything together. We game together. I was his football coach up until this last year in middle school. So me and him, I don't think at the time he understood completely what was going on. Now my daughter, on the other hand,
is she the older one?
she's the oldest. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
My daughter, on the other hand, there's been some tension, you know. But I will say that the one thing that I appreciate about my daughter is that she recognized, hey, Dad, I want to go therapy. Mom, Dad, I want to go therapy. And so that's something that she does. That's something that she reached out, that she wanted to do. And so she's in her own therapy, which I think is great.
Yeah, that's awesome. One of the reasons why I created this show and that I have you on for sure is I want women to see men as humans. And I think sometimes if a woman doesn't have like brothers or she doesn't have like close platonic friends, it can seem like y'all are otherly, but y'all are humans. And sometimes humans make mistakes. And yeah, like I think that there should be grace given. You know, there's times to completely cut things off for sure. But if someone can watch this show and see the humanness in you, I've done my job. I've done my job.
Humanity is the one thing that we have that no other creature, of course, has. But a lot of people fail to realize that men cry.
Yeah.
Men mourn relationships. Men mess up, and women do too. Of course, because of the position that God put man in, like man as in male, as the head of household, a lot of times we take the heat of it. Why? Because 9 out of 10 times, we're the ones that open the door to allow that spirit or allow that behavior to even enter in. And so even if we shut that door, that it's already there. So if the woman tries to retaliate or get their lick back, as they say, you know, sometimes you gotta realize, hey, you open that door. And so you gotta do the work to push it out.
If you were going forward, like if you were to get married, say in the next couple of years or so, and you started to feel those feelings that you were feeling, how do you navigate that?
I'm gonna open my mouth.
Okay.
I am absolutely going, because I'm not gonna let it get there first. If it's not so much as getting to the feeling, but what has happened that's leading up to it. So before, I wasn't talking about, hey, I need this. Hey, I don't like this. Hey, because again, my validation, I was already invalidated, so I was already feeling the conflict, and I wasn't feeling the confidence. And so I was like, I'm not gonna say anything. You know what? It'll smooth over. I'll be okay. I'll bottle it in. But moving forward, I'm like, nah, I'm not doing that. If I got something to say, I'm gonna say it.
Okay.
If I feel something, I'm gonna tell you what I feel. And you know, they want to say, oh, you sassy this and sassy that, and you know, men sassy for expressing their feelings. Well, if I got to be sassy, I'm gonna be sassy. Because at the end of the day, my feelings matter just as much as hers.
That right there. Yeah, I definitely agree with that, for sure. I think that needs to be a thing. Put it on a daggone t-shirt or something. Like, men have feelings.
All right, make sure we hashtag. We got to trademark that one right now.
For sure. So, what would you say to someone who's considering cheating?
If you are in a committed relationship, like, no. If you date multiple people. That don't mean you gotta sleep with multiple people, though. You know? But yeah, you have to date multiple people to get to know what it is that you want. Like, if that person is that person for you. But if you make that decision and say, hey, you know what? I'm exclusively wanting this person and there's a mutual exclusivity, cut it. Leave it alone. Because all you're going to do is destroy what you've already built. And then think about it like this. If you're sharing with a person, hey, I'm in a relationship, but they're still interested in trying to deal with you, that ain't the kind of person you want, because what makes you think that they're going to stay faithful to you in the long run?
Right.
So I mean, to be quite honest, I don't believe that all cheating is a thought out process. It's not I'm going to go seek somebody to cheat with. I think the majority of it is I got caught up in this person or that person making me feel the way I want to feel with my partner, with the person I want to be with. I don't want to be with this person I'm sleeping around, I'm cheating with.
Yeah.
This ain't the person I want to be with. I want to be with this person, but you know what? There's a hole, there's a gap, there's something that I'm missing that I'm getting from this other person, whether it be physicality, whether it be money, whether it be security, whatever it is, I'm getting that from them. And so if you're thinking about it, that means that you've already identified that there's something wrong in your relationship. And if you already identified there's something wrong in your relationship, well then do what you need to do to fix the relationship or end the relationship.
Yeah, just let it go.
Just let it go.
One of the questions that I try to ask each and every interview is, what did you like about your wife?
Early on, she was family. Like I said, she took care of family. And she had a way of taking care of certain things. Like I said, early on, it was just like she was, man. Huh?
Do you feel like she was mature?
I mean, she was mature. Yeah, she was mature most women mature before men anyway.
That's true.
But for her, yeah, she was mature for our age. But what she did was she planned things. She was a planner. You know, she was like, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. She would plan things out. She had to plan things out to be the couponer she was. Like when I'm talking about the woman would, she was, getting 4 or 5 papers and clipping them all and, marking out the deals and, signing up for different stuff and getting coupons sent to the house and all that kind of stuff. And so, she was a planner. I was a lot more, kind of fly by the seat, so she kind of balanced me. But that's what I talked about when I said, sometimes the core of a person changes. And that was something that I realized had changed in her was, that sense of, let me take care of my family. But, in the long haul, I mean, she's a very kind person, I'm not the kindest. I can be, but I have a mean streak to me. So, she kind of balanced me in that sense. So, those were things that I definitely enjoyed about her.
Okay. Well, our last question is, what would you tell your younger self, or what would you tell a young man who's just green when it comes to relationships and all that good stuff?
Take your time. There is no rush. Unless you are terminally ill, laying in a hospital bed, and the doctor is giving you 3 to 6 months, and really it's only 2, and you don't know nobody knows what tomorrow's gonna be. But you know what? Take your time. Get to know somebody for real. Like really dig into, and then ask the hard questions. Hey, how do you like raising? What do you think about raising children? Do you want children? What do you want to do in your career? Where do you see yourself in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? How do you deal with finances? Are you a spender or a saver? What kind of clothes do you like? What's your style? What kind of foods do you like? Do you have any allergies? Like, these are questions that you ask on dates. And, and stop just jumping into bed with whoever. People jump into bed with whoever. And they
look in the camera again and
do not jump in the bed with whoever. Like, I mean, that the whole sleeping around culture is dead. Like, it's dangerous. You don't know. Sometimes you don't know if you sleep with a man or a woman. I mean, let's be honest, especially here in Atlanta. Yeah. But take your time. Like, you don't have to lay down with, the first hot thing that come in the room. If you're interested, now if that's the lifestyle you want to live, at least be safe. Be smart, be safe. Because, it's a lot of stuff going on, and you don't want a baby by some crazy woman or some crazy dude. And especially, with
forever.
they do.
They do. Thank you
They
so
do.
much, Drew.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Well, y'all like, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for another episode of Barbershop Love Stories.